Captain Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of the U.S. frontier, watching the asteroid belt stretch endlessly before them. The mining ship had been working this sector for 3 months now, pulling precious metals from the floating rocks near Jupiter. It was hard work, but the crew knew they were helping build humanity's future among the stars. "Captain, we've got a good haul from asteroid 77 Alpha," reported Amy Foster, his second-in-command. She was a tough woman who had worked her way up from the mining crews. "Pete says the rare earth deposits are even better than we hoped." Jake nodded and smiled. Pete Collins was their best engineer, and if he was excited about the mining results, it meant good news for everyone. The Frontier might not be the prettiest ship in space, but it got the job done. Its hull was scarred from years of asteroid impacts, and its systems were basic compared to the fancy research vessels, but it was home to 32 good people. "Tell Pete to keep at it," Jake said. "We're ahead of schedule, and Earth will be happy to see these medals." The bridge was small and cramped, with old-style displays and simple controls. Everything was built to last and easy to repair. That was the human way in space. Keep it simple, keep it working. Other species might have fancier technology, but humans had learned to make do with what worked out suddenly. The ship's sensors began beeping loudly. Amy rushed to her station, her face growing pale as she read the displays. "Captain, we've got multiple contacts approaching fast," she said, her voice tight with worry. "They're big, sir. Really big." Jake moved to the sensor station and looked at the readings. 5 massive shapes were moving toward them through the asteroid field. They were huge, each one easily 10 times the size of the Frontier. But that wasn't what made his blood run cold. What scared him was that they had appeared out of nowhere. "How did they get so close without us seeing them?" he asked. "I don't know, sir. They just appeared on our screens 30 seconds ago. It's like they were invisible until now." Jake felt his stomach drop. Invisible ships meant advanced technology. Advanced technology meant aliens. And aliens meant humanity's first contact with another species. He had always hoped this day would come. But not like this. Not when his small mining ship was alone in the asteroid belt. "All hands, this is the captain," he said into the ship's communication system. "Report to emergency stations immediately. This is not a drill." Throughout the ship, alarms began ringing. In the mining bay, Pete Collins stopped working on the ore processors and grabbed his emergency kit. In the security office, Sergeant Lisa Hayes began checking weapons and ammunition. Everyone on the Frontier knew that space was dangerous, but they had always worried about equipment failures or asteroid impacts, not alien contact. The 5 massive ships moved closer, their hulls gleaming like crystal in the starlight. They were beautiful in a way that human ships never were, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to glow with their own light. But their beauty only made them more frightening. "Captain, I'm getting a transmission," Amy reported. "It's not like anything I've ever seen. The signal is incredibly complex." "Put it through," Jake ordered. The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at an alien face. The being was tall and thin, with pale skin that seemed to shine like moonlight. Its eyes were large and dark, and its features were sharp and angular. When it spoke, its voice was smooth and musical, but somehow cold. "Greetings, primitive beings," the alien said. The words came through clearly, despite being in an alien language. Somehow, their technology was translating perfectly. "I am High Commander Veleth of the Zephyrian Empire. Your small vessel has wandered into our territory." Jake stepped forward, trying to look confident despite his fear. "I'm Captain Jake Martinez of the United Earthship Frontier. We're peaceful miners from Earth. We didn't know this was your territory." Veleth's expression didn't change, but something in his dark eyes seemed amused. "Earth, yes, We have heard whispers of your species. A young race barely capable of leaving your home world. How quaint. The alien's tone was polite, but Jake could hear the contempt underneath. It was the way someone might talk to a child who had wandered into an adult conversation. We mean no harm, Jake said. We're just mining asteroids. We can leave if this area belongs to you. Oh, but you misunderstand, Velith replied. This is not about territory. This is about order. The galaxy has rules, Captain Martinez. Rules maintained by advanced civilizations like the Zephyrian Empire. Primitive species like yours must be guided. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. He had spent years working to get humanity into space, and now this alien was calling them primitive, but he forced himself to stay calm. The frontier was just a mining ship, and these aliens clearly had superior technology. What do you want from us? He asked. Submission, Velith said simply. Your species will acknowledge Zephyrian authority. You will accept our guidance and follow our laws. In return, we will allow you to continue your limited existence under our protection. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. Amy's face was hard with anger. At the weapons station, their security chief was already running diagnostics on their defensive systems. The Frontier wasn't a warship, but it had basic shields and a few weapon systems for protection against pirates and debris. And if we refuse? Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. Velith's smile was cold and sharp. Then you will be removed as a threat to galactic stability. But first, let me show you why resistance is pointless. The alien made a gesture, and suddenly the Frontier's computers began displaying information. Detailed scans of their ship, their weapons, their technology. The aliens had examined everything in seconds. Kinetic projectile weapons, Velith said. And now his amusement was clear. Chemical explosives. Primitive energy shields. Captain Martinez, your species is using technology that the Zephyrian Empire abandoned thousands of years ago. You fight with bullets and bombs while we command the very forces of matter and energy. On the screen, images appeared showing Zephyrian weapons, beams of pure energy that could slice through asteroids, shields that could turn away the blast of a star, ships that could appear and disappear at will. Your weapons cannot harm us, Velith continued. Your shields cannot stop us. Your ships cannot escape us. This is not a battle, Captain Martinez. This is simply cleanup. Jake felt desperation growing in his chest. The alien was right. How could bullets and bombs compete with energy weapons and force fields? But he thought of his crew, of the families, waiting for them back on Earth, of humanity's dreams of exploring the stars. I need time to consider your offer, he said. You have 1 hour, Velith replied. After that, we will demonstrate the futility of resistance. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Jake looked at his crew and saw his own fear reflected in their faces. But he also saw something else. Determination. These were people who had chosen to live and work in the dangerous frontier of space. They wouldn't give up easily. All right, people, Jake said. Let's see what we can do with our primitive technology. Amy, take us deeper into the asteroid field. Maybe we can buy some time. Lisa, get your security teams ready. Pete, I want every system on this ship running at maximum efficiency. As the Frontier began moving deeper into the asteroid field, Jake wondered if they had any chance at all. The aliens were right about one thing. Human technology was simple compared to theirs. But sometimes, he thought, simple things could be surprisingly effective. He just hoped they would live long enough to find out. The hour passed too quickly. Captain Jake Martinez watched the countdown on his screen, knowing that each second brought them closer to a fight they couldn't win. The Frontier had moved deep into the asteroid field, hiding among the largest rocks they could find. But Jake knew their hiding place wouldn't fool the aliens for long. "Captain, I'm detecting movement from the alien ships," Amy Foster reported from her station. "They're launching smaller vessels. Looks like fighters or attack craft." Jake moved to the tactical display and studied the readings. Dozens of small ships were spreading out from the 5 massive alien vessels, moving in perfect formation through the asteroid field. Each one was sleek and graceful, glowing with the same crystal-like light as the larger ships. "How many?" he asked. 36 confirmed contacts," Amy replied. "They're moving in groups of 6, searching the asteroid field in a grid pattern." In the alien flagship, Commander Zelek studied the tactical display with satisfaction. He was High Commander Veleth's most trusted officer, a veteran of many campaigns against primitive species. This hunt would be over quickly. "Begin the search," he ordered his pilots. "Remember, these creatures are using obsolete technology. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields, and their ships cannot match our speed. Take them alive if possible, but do not risk yourselves for inferior beings." The Zephyrian fighters moved through the asteroid field like hunting wolves. Their pilots were confident, almost bored. They had fought dozens of primitive species over the centuries, and the outcome was always the same. The advanced always defeated. The backward. Aboard the Frontier, Sergeant Lisa Hayes was preparing her security team for the worst. She was a former military police officer who had joined the mining crew for the steady pay and the chance to see space. Now she wished she was still dealing with drunk miners instead of alien invaders. "Listen up, everyone," she told her team of 8 security officers. They were gathered in the ship's small armory, checking their weapons and equipment. "We've got basic assault rifles, shotguns, and some fragmentation grenades. Not much against energy weapons and force fields, but it's what we have." Her team nodded grimly. They were miners and security guards, not soldiers, but they would do their duty. Among them was Carl Watson, a big man who had worked the mining crews for 20 years before becoming a security officer. Next to him stood Diana Price, the ship's communications officer who had volunteered to help with the fighting. "The captain wants us to set up defensive positions throughout the ship," Lisa continued. "We'll use the narrow corridors and mining equipment to slow them down. Make every shot count and stay together. These aliens think we're primitive, so let's show them what primitive can do." The first contact came 30 minutes later. A group of 6 Zephyrian fighters found the Frontier, hiding behind a massive iron asteroid. The alien ships approached slowly, scanning the human vessel with contempt. "Pathetic construction," one of the alien pilots commented to his squadron. "Look at that crude hull plating and those simple weapon systems. This will be over in minutes." The Zephyrian fighters positioned themselves around the Frontier, preparing to disable its engines and board the ship. They activated their energy shields, confident that nothing the humans possessed could harm them. That confidence lasted exactly 12 seconds. Captain Martinez had ordered his crew to wait until the aliens were close before opening fire. When Lisa Hayes gave the signal, every weapon on the Frontier fired at once. The mining ship's defensive guns were simple kinetic weapons, firing solid metal slugs at high velocity. They weren't fancy, but they worked. The first alien fighter exploded in a burst of crystal fragments and escaping atmosphere. The pilot never understood what had hit him. His energy shield, designed to deflect energy beams and plasma bolts, offered no protection against a solid chunk of metal traveling at 3 kilometers per second. Impossible. Commander Zelek breathed as he watched the tactical display. One of his fighters was gone, simply gone, destroyed by weapons that should have been harmless. The second fighter tried to retreat, but the Frontier's guns tracked it easily. More kinetic rounds tore through its hull, and the elegant alien craft tumbled into an asteroid becoming a brief fireball against the rock. "All units, evasive maneuvers," Zelek ordered, his voice tight with shock. "Their weapons are somehow penetrating our shields." But the remaining 4 fighters in the first group were too close to escape. The humans had lured them into a trap among the asteroids, and now the elegant alien ships found themselves in a deadly crossfire. The Frontier's guns were joined by explosive charges that Pete Collins had planted on nearby asteroids. When the charges detonated, they sent clouds of metal fragments flying through space at tremendous speed. The alien fighters, designed for combat against energy weapons, had minimal armor plating. The metal fragments tore through their hulls like paper, and 3 more ships were destroyed in seconds. Only 1 fighter managed to escape, its pilot broadcasting frantic reports about the effectiveness of human weapons. "High Commander." Valeth received the reports with growing anger and disbelief. How could primitive kinetic weapons defeat Zephyrian technology? His scientists had assured him that energy shields were superior to all known forms of attack. "Send more fighters," he ordered, "and this time tell them to maintain distance. These humans have some trick we don't understand." But the damage was already done. Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, pilots and commanders were beginning to doubt their superiority. 5 fighters destroyed by a single primitive mining ship was not supposed to be possible. Aboard the Frontier, the crew was celebrating their unlikely victory. Pete Collins was grinning as he reported the successful detonation of his asteroid charges, while Lisa Hayes was already planning the next defensive position. "Captain, we hurt them," Amy Foster reported with excitement. "Their shields don't work against our weapons. I don't understand it, but somehow our bullets are getting through." Jake Martinez allowed himself a moment of hope. Maybe they had a chance after all. But he knew the aliens would adapt quickly, and the Frontier couldn't run forever. "Don't get overconfident," he warned his crew. "We surprised them once, but they'll be ready for us next time. Pete, can you rig more charges on the asteroids around us?" "Already working on it, Captain," Pete replied. "I've got enough explosives to turn this whole asteroid field into a minefield. These aliens want to hunt us. They're going to have to work for it." Commander Zilek was studying the battle reports, trying to understand what had gone wrong. The humans were using simple kinetic weapons, nothing more advanced than metal projectiles fired by chemical explosives. According to all Zephyrian science, such weapons should be useless against modern defenses. "Commander, I have a theory," said his science officer, a young Zephyrian named Korvak. "Our energy shields are designed to disperse and deflect energy-based attacks. But kinetic weapons work differently. They transfer momentum directly through physical impact." Zelek stared at the young officer. "Are you telling me that our shields are useless against bullets?" "Not useless, sir, but ineffective. The shields can't stop solid matter the way they stop energy beams. And our hull armor is designed to resist energy weapons, not high-velocity projectiles." The implications were staggering. The Zephyrian Empire had spent centuries perfecting defenses against energy weapons, plasma beams, and particle accelerators. They had never considered that someone might still be using solid projectiles in space combat. "This changes everything," Zelek muttered. "If these humans can defeat our defenses with primitive weapons, what does that say about our other enemies?" Meanwhile, the hunt continued. More Zephyrian fighters spread through the asteroid field, but now they approached with caution. The human mining ship had proven to be far more dangerous than anyone had expected. In the depths of space, a new kind of warfare was beginning. Advanced technology was meeting primitive determination, and the results were shocking both sides. The aliens had assumed their superiority would make victory easy, but the humans were proving that sometimes old methods could be devastatingly effective. The battle for the asteroid field was just beginning, and both sides were learning that assumptions about technology could be deadly wrong. The news of the fighter losses spread quickly through the Zephyrian fleet. High Commander Velith paced his command bridge, his pale features twisted with anger and confusion. 5 of his best pilots were dead, killed by weapons that should have been harmless toys. "This is impossible," he said to Commander Zelek. "Our scientists assured me that kinetic weapons were obsolete. How can bullets defeat technology that has protected our empire for 1,000 years? Zelek looked uncomfortable as he delivered his report. "Sir, it appears our energy shields were designed only for energy-based attacks. The human projectiles pass through them as if they don't exist. Our armor plating is also optimized for deflecting plasma and laser fire, not solid metal moving at high speed." Velith stopped pacing and stared at his second-in-command. "Are you telling me that our entire defensive system is worthless against these primitives?" "Not worthless, sir, but inadequate. We have never faced an enemy that still uses physical projectiles in space combat. It simply never occurred to our designers." Meanwhile, aboard the Frontier, Captain Jake Martinez was making the most of their unexpected advantage. He had split his crew into smaller teams, each with specific tasks. The ship's narrow corridors and mining equipment gave them plenty of places to set up defensive positions. "Amy, take a team to the forward sections," he ordered. "Carl, you and your people hold the engineering spaces. Diana, I want you coordinating communications between all teams. Lisa, your security people are our mobile response force." Amy Foster nodded and gathered her team of miners and technicians. They weren't soldiers, but they knew the ship better than anyone. Carl Watson, the big former mining foreman, was already moving toward the engine rooms with his people. Diana Price was setting up communication equipment in the ship's central hub. Pete Collins was busy in the engineering spaces, working on modifications to their weapons and defenses. He had studied the sensor readings from their first battle and had some ideas about how to improve their chances. "Captain, I think I know why our weapons work so well against them," he reported over the comm system. "Their shields are like trying to stop a rock by shining a flashlight at it. Energy and matter are different things, and their technology is built for energy warfare." The Zephyrians launched their second attack 6 hours later. This time, Commander Zelek led the assault personally, commanding a heavy cruiser supported by 20 fighters. They approached more cautiously, staying at longer range and using their superior sensors to study the human ship. "Maintain distance," Zelek ordered his pilots. "Use long-range energy weapons. We will not be caught off guard again." But the humans had been busy during those 6 hours. Pete Collins had rigged explosive charges throughout the asteroid field, creating a defensive network that stretched for kilometers. When the alien ships approached, he triggered the first series of charges. The explosions sent clouds of metal fragments flying through space. The fragments were small and moved slowly, compared to bullets, but there were millions of them. The alien fighters found themselves flying through a deadly cloud of shrapnel that their shields couldn't stop. "Evasive maneuvers," Zelek shouted as his own ship was hit by dozens of metal pieces. The cruiser's elegant hull was scarred and dented, and several weapon systems went offline. 3 more fighters were destroyed in the fragment cloud, their pilots helpless as tiny pieces of metal punched holes in their ships. The remaining fighters retreated in disorder, their confidence shattered. "Sir, we're detecting more human activity in the asteroid field," reported Zelek's sensor officer. "They appear to be setting up additional defensive positions." Velith studied the tactical display with growing concern. The humans were using the asteroid field like a fortress, turning every rock into a potential weapon. Their simple explosives and metal fragments were proving more effective than sophisticated energy weapons. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked. 11 fighters and 1 cruiser damaged, sir," Zelek replied, "against a single primitive mining vessel." The implications were staggering. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered dozens of worlds with smaller losses. Now they were being defeated by humans using technology that was thousands of years old in the asteroid field. The human crews were learning to work together in ways they had never imagined. Carl Watson's mining team was using their industrial equipment to move asteroids into better defensive positions. Diana Price was coordinating between teams, making sure everyone knew where the others were located. "Captain, I've got an idea," Lisa Hayes reported from her position near the ships. "Main airlocks. These aliens have been in space a long time, right? They're probably used to fighting in clean, open areas. But we're miners. We know how to fight dirty." Jake Martinez understood immediately. "You want to bring them inside the ship." "Exactly. Get them into our territory, where their fancy technology doesn't help them. In narrow corridors and mining tunnels, a shotgun beats an energy beam every time." It was a dangerous plan, but Jake could see the logic. The aliens expected space combat with energy weapons and shields. They weren't prepared for close quarters, fighting in cramped spaces designed for industrial work. "Do it," he decided, "but make sure everyone knows the plan. We'll only get one chance." The next alien attack came 12 hours later. High Commander Velith had decided to end the situation personally, leading a boarding assault with elite troops. The Zephyrian soldiers were tall and graceful, equipped with personal energy shields and weapons that could cut through steel. "These humans have been lucky," Velith told his troops as they prepared to board their assault pods. "But luck ends when faced with superior training and equipment. Bring me their captain alive. I want to understand how they achieved these results." The assault pods launched from the alien ships, their sleek forms cutting through space toward the frontier. Each pod carried 6 Zephyrian soldiers, the elite of their military. They had conquered dozens of primitive worlds and never faced serious resistance. The pods attached to the frontier's hull with magnetic clamps, and the alien soldiers began cutting through the outer airlocks. Their plasma cutters made quick work of the human ship's armor, and soon they were boarding the mining vessel. Velith led the first boarding party through the airlocks into the frontier's main corridor. The passage was narrow and cluttered with mining equipment, nothing like the clean, open spaces of Zephyrian ships. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows, and the air smelled of metal and machine oil. "Spread out and secure the area," Velith ordered. His personal shield flickered around him, and his weapon hummed with energy. "These primitives cannot hide from us." That was when Lisa Hayes and her team opened fire. The security sergeant had positioned her people in hidden alcoves along the corridor, using mining equipment as cover. When the aliens advanced past their positions, the humans opened fire from behind. The first burst of assault rifle fire caught 3 Zephyrian soldiers in the back. Their energy shields failed to stop the bullets, and they fell instantly. The remaining soldiers spun around in confusion, trying to identify their attackers in the dim lighting. "Impossible," Velith breathed as he watched his elite troops fall to primitive weapons. "Our shields should protect us." But the shields were designed for a different kind of warfare. They could stop energy beams and plasma bolts, but they were useless against solid bullets fired at close range. The human weapons were crude and simple, but they worked. Carl Watson's team joined the fight from the opposite end of the corridor, trapping the aliens in a crossfire. The big mining foreman carried a shotgun that had been used for scaring away space pirates, and at close range it was devastatingly effective. The corridor filled with smoke and noise as the battle raged. The aliens tried to use their superior mobility and training, but the narrow space worked against them. Their graceful movements were hampered by low ceilings and cluttered passages, designed for human-sized workers. High Commander Velith found himself pressed against a bulkhead, his energy weapon useless in the close quarters. A human appeared from behind a piece of mining equipment, pointing a simple pistol at his chest. "Surrender," the human said calmly. It was Captain Martinez, and his weapon looked ancient compared to Zephyrian technology. Velith raised his own weapon, confident that his superior technology would save him. But when he fired, the energy beam struck a metal support beam and scattered harmlessly. The human's bullet, however, punched through his shield and armor, sending him crashing to the deck dot. As Velith lay bleeding, he finally understood the truth. The humans weren't lucky. They weren't primitive. They had simply evolved along a different path, one that made them perfectly suited to defeat the Zephyrian Empire's advanced technology. The age of energy weapons was ending, and the age of human warfare was about to begin. 3 days after the first attack on the frontier, Earth's military finally responded to the distress signal. The experimental warship Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the asteroid belt, its hull gleaming with fresh paint and new armor plating. Captain Ryan Clark stood on the bridge of humanity's newest warship, studying the tactical display with concern. The readings showed multiple alien vessels scattered throughout the asteroid field, along with debris from destroyed ships. The frontier was still broadcasting, but our signal was weak and intermittent. "What's our status?" Clark asked his crew. The Defiant was larger than the mining ship, built specifically for military operations. Her crew of 120 were all experienced military personnel, not miners and engineers. Sensors show 5 large alien vessels and approximately 20 smaller ships, reported Lieutenant Commander Nancy Torres from the weapons station. "We're also detecting significant debris fields. Looks like there's been heavy fighting." Captain Clark nodded grimly. The Defiant had been rushed into service when Earth received the frontier's distress call. Her weapons were the most advanced humanity possessed, but they were still based on the same principles that had served humans for centuries. Railguns that fired solid metal slugs at incredible speed, missile systems that delivered explosive warheads, kinetic weapons that relied on mass and velocity rather than exotic energy. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the frontier," reported the communications officer. "It's Captain Martinez." Jake Martinez appeared on the main screen, his face dirty and tired but determined. Behind him, the frontier's bridge showed signs of battle damage, with exposed wiring and scorch marks on the walls. "Captain Clark, thank God you're here," Jake said with relief. "We've been fighting these aliens for 3 days. They call themselves the Zephyrian Empire, and they think we're primitive." "What's your situation?" Clark asked. "We've lost 8 crew members, but we've taken down 16 of their ships," Jake replied. "Their technology is incredible, but it has a weakness. Their shields and armor are designed for energy weapons. Our bullets and explosives go right through them." Clark felt a chill of understanding. If the aliens were vulnerable to kinetic weapons, then the Defiant had a real chance. Her railguns and missiles might be exactly what humanity needed. "We're moving to support you," Clark said. "Hold your position." High Commander Velith was recovering from his wounds aboard his flagship when he received word of the new human ship. He was strapped to a medical bed, his crystalline armor replaced with healing devices that glowed softly in the dim light. "Another primitive vessel," he said weakly to Commander Zelek. "How many ships do these humans have?" "Our scouts report it's larger than the mining ship," Zelek replied. "And it appears to be a military vessel. Sensors show multiple weapon systems." Velith laughed bitterly. "More kinetic weapons, no doubt. More bullets and explosives. How did we become so blind to such simple threats?" The Zephyrian commander was beginning to understand the full scope of their mistake. His empire had spent centuries fighting other advanced civilizations, all of whom used energy-based technology. They had forgotten that simpler weapons could be just as deadly. Defiant moved through the asteroid field like a predator stalking its prey. Captain Clark had studied the battle reports from the frontier and understood the tactical situation. The aliens expected energy weapons and shield-to-shield combat. They weren't prepared for kinetic warfare. Weapons systems online, Nancy Torres reported. Railguns loaded and ready. Missile tubes 1 through 8 are armed. Target the nearest alien vessel, Clark ordered. Let's see how they handle a real warship. The Zephyrian cruiser Eternal Light was patrolling the outer edge of the asteroid. Field when the Defiant appeared on their sensors. The alien captain, a veteran named Korvax, studied the human ship with interest. It's larger than the mining vessel, he reported to his crew. But sensors show the same primitive technology. Kinetic weapons and simple armor plating. Korvax had not participated in the earlier battles, and he was confident that his superior training and equipment would make short work of the human warship. He ordered his ship to attack, energy weapons blazing. The Eternal Light's plasma cannons struck the Defiant's hull, scorching the armor plating but causing no serious damage. Human military ships were built to withstand punishment, with thick armor and redundant systems. Their weapons are powerful, Nancy Torres reported as the ship shook from enemy fire. But our armor is holding. Return fire, Captain Clark ordered. All railguns, maximum power. The Defiant's main guns fired in sequence, sending solid metal slugs toward the alien cruiser at a significant fraction of light speed. The projectiles covered the distance between ships in seconds, striking the Eternal Light's hull with devastating effect. The alien ship's energy shields flickered and died as the kinetic rounds punched through them. The elegant hull cracked and split, atmosphere streaming out into space. Captain Korvax had just enough time to realize his mistake before his ship exploded in a ball of superheated gas. Direct hit, Torres reported with satisfaction. Target destroyed. Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, alarm bells began ringing. The destruction of the Eternal Light had been visible to every ship in the asteroid field. A human warship had just destroyed one of their cruisers with a single salvo. All ships concentrate fire on the human warship, Velith ordered from his medical bed. Use everything we have. 6 Zephyrian vessels converged on the Defiant, their energy weapons creating a deadly light show in the darkness of space. But Captain Clark had been expecting this response. He ordered his ship deeper into the asteroid field, using the massive rocks as cover. Launch missiles, he commanded. Target the lead ships. The Defiant's missile tubes opened, releasing a swarm of guided projectiles. Each missile carried a high explosive warhead designed to penetrate armor and destroy ships from the inside. The Zephyrian point defense systems tried to intercept them, but the weapons were designed to stop energy beams, not solid objects. 12 missiles found their targets, and 3 more alien ships disappeared in brilliant explosions. The remaining Zephyrian vessels pulled back, their captains finally understanding the true threat they faced. On the frontier, Jake Martinez and his crew watched the battle with amazement. The Defiant was doing exactly what they had done on a smaller scale, using kinetic weapons to devastating effect against alien technology. Captain Clark is making them pay, Amy Foster said with grim satisfaction. Those aliens picked the wrong species to mess with. Pete Collins was monitoring the alien communications, trying to understand their language. They're panicking, he reported. I can't understand the words, but the tone is clear. They're scared. High Commander Velith was indeed scared. In 3 days of fighting, he had lost more ships than in his previous 10 campaigns combined. The humans were using weapons that his scientists had dismissed as obsolete, and those weapons were proving superior to Zephyrian technology. Sir, we must retreat, Commander Zellick urged. We're losing too many ships. The fleet cannot sustain these casualties. Velith struggled to sit up on his medical bed. No. If we retreat now, word will spread throughout the galaxy. Every primitive Species will think they can challenge the Empire with kinetic weapons. But even as he spoke, Velith knew the situation was hopeless. The human warship was systematically destroying his fleet, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. His energy weapons were ineffective at long range, and close combat was suicide against kinetic weapons. The final battle came when Velith ordered his flagship to attack the Defiant directly. The massive Zephyrian dreadnought was the most advanced ship in the fleet, equipped with weapons that could destroy planets. Surely it could handle one human warship. Captain Clark watched the alien flagship approach on his tactical display. It was easily 3 times the size of the Defiant, bristling with weapon systems and protected by shields that glowed like small stars. "That's their command ship," he said calmly. "All weapons, prepare for concentrated fire. This is going to be our biggest test." The space between the 2 ships erupted in light as energy beams and kinetic projectiles crossed paths. The Zephyrian flagship's weapons were incredibly powerful, and the Defiant's armor began to glow red-hot under the assault. But the human ship's railguns were finding their mark. Each solid projectile that struck the alien vessel caused massive damage, punching holes in the elegant hull and destroying critical systems. "Their shields are failing," Nancy Torres reported. "Armor is breached in multiple locations." "Fire everything," Clark ordered. "End this." The Defiant's final salvo was devastating. Railgun slugs and missiles struck the Zephyrian flagship simultaneously, overwhelming its defenses and tearing the massive ship apart. High Commander Velith had just enough time to see his flagship's hull cracking around him before the ship exploded. In the sudden silence that followed, the remaining Zephyrian ships began to retreat. Their Empire's first contact with humanity had become a disaster, and the survivors carried word of a new threat in the galaxy. Captain Clark opened a communication channel to the frontier. "Captain Martinez, this is the Defiant. The alien fleet is withdrawing. You and your crew fought well. The surviving Zephyrian ships fled through space at maximum speed, carrying news of their defeat back to the heart of their empire." Commander Zalek, now the highest-ranking officer left alive, sat in his damaged cruiser and tried to understand what had happened. "Send a priority message to the Imperial Council," he ordered his communications officer. "Tell them that the human species represents a significant threat to all energy-based civilizations. Their kinetic weapons can penetrate any shield system we possess." The message would take weeks to reach the Zephyrian homeworld, but Zelek knew it would change everything. The Empire had built its power on the assumption that energy weapons were superior to all other forms of warfare. Now a primitive species had proven that assumption wrong. Back in the asteroid field, the 2 human ships floated among the debris of the alien fleet. Captain Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of the frontier, looking at the wreckage scattered around them. Pieces of beautiful crystalline ships drifted past their viewports, evidence of a battle that would be remembered throughout human history. "Damage. Report," he asked Amy Foster. "Hull breaches on decks 3 and 7, but we've got them sealed," she replied. "Main engines are running at 60%. We lost 8 good people, but the rest of the crew is alive and fighting." Jake nodded. "Sadly, 8 lives was a heavy price, but it could have been much worse." The frontier had faced an enemy with technology centuries ahead of their own, and they had won through determination and clever thinking. Captain Ryan Clark was conducting his own damage assessment aboard the Defiant. His warship had taken more punishment than the mining vessel, but her military construction had kept her intact. "Hull armor is scarred but holding," reported Lieutenant Commander Nancy Torres. "Railgun systems are fully operational. Missile stores are down to 40%. "Any word from Earth?" Clark asked. "Yes, sir. Fleet Command is very interested in our battle reports. They want detailed information about alien technology and how our weapons performed against it." Clark understood the implications. If other alien species used similar technology to the Zephyrians, then humanity's kinetic weapons would give them a significant advantage in any future conflicts. Earth would want to know everything about what they had learned. On Earth itself, the news of first contact was spreading through government and military channels. Admiral Catherine Bell sat in her office at Fleet Command, reading the preliminary reports with amazement and concern. Aliens with energy shields that can't stop bullets, she muttered to herself. How is that possible? Her science advisor, Dr. Robert Kim, had been studying the sensor data sent back by both ships. It appears their entire civilization evolved along energy-based lines, he explained. They've been fighting wars with plasma weapons and force fields for so long that they forgot about simple kinetic energy. And we never developed energy weapons because we focused on improving kinetic systems, Admiral Bell realized. We went in completely different directions. Dr. Kim nodded. Exactly. While they were perfecting energy manipulation, we were improving metallurgy, explosives, and projectile technology. Neither approach is inherently superior, but they counter each other in unexpected ways. The implications were staggering. If there were other alien civilizations out there using energy-based technology, humanity might have a significant military advantage despite being the newcomers to space. How quickly can we build more ships like the Defiant? Admiral Bell asked. With the data from this battle, we can probably improve our designs significantly, Dr. Kim replied. The aliens' weapons were powerful, but our armor held up well. We could build faster, better-armed ships within a year. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the news of the Zephyrian defeat was spreading to other alien civilizations. The galaxy was a vast network of species and empires, most of whom had abandoned kinetic weapons long ago in favor of energy-based technology. On the trading world of Nexus Prime, alien merchants and diplomats gathered to discuss the disturbing reports. The Zephyrian Empire had been one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy, and their defeat by a primitive species was shocking news. These humans use physical projectiles, reported a Vorthan trader who had heard the story from a Zephyrian. Survivor. Solid metal fired at high velocity. Our shields cannot stop such attacks. A Colonian diplomat shifted nervously in her chair. If the Zephyrians could not defeat them, what chance do any of us have? Our entire defense doctrine is based on energy shields and plasma weapons. The news was spreading fear throughout the galaxy. Species that had felt secure behind their advanced technology were suddenly realizing that their defenses might be useless against human weapons. Back in the asteroid field, the two human ships were preparing for their journey home. Captain Martinez had transferred his wounded crew members to the Defiant's medical bay, where they would receive better treatment than the Frontier's basic facilities could provide. Captain, I've been thinking about what happened here, Pete Collins said as he worked on repairing the ship's systems. We won because we were different, not because we were better. These aliens made the same mistake we could have made if we'd encountered someone with energy weapons first. Jake understood what his engineer was saying. You mean we got lucky with our technology choices? In a way, yes, but it's more than that. We approach problems differently than they do. They expected us to fight like them, with shields and energy beams. When we didn't, they couldn't adapt fast enough. It was a sobering thought. Humanity had stumbled into galactic politics by accident, and their first encounter had been with a species whose technology was perfectly vulnerable to human weapons. The next contact might not go so well. Captain Clark was having similar thoughts aboard the Defiant. Nancy, what's your assessment of alien technology? He asked his weapons. Officer, impressive but specialized, she replied. Their energy weapons are incredibly powerful, and their ships are faster than ours. But they've optimized everything for energy-based combat. Against kinetic weapons, they're sitting ducks. And if we encounter aliens who use kinetic weapons, like we do? Nancy considered the question carefully. Then we'd better hope our armor and tactics are superior, because the technological advantage would be gone. As the human ships prepared to leave the asteroid field, they received one final transmission from the retreating Zephyrian fleet. Commander Zelek appeared on their screens, his pale features marked with pain and exhaustion. "Human captains," he said formally, "I am Commander Zelek of the Zephyrian Empire. I wish to apologize for my commander's arrogance. High Commander Veleth believed your species was primitive and weak. He was wrong." Captain Martinez stepped forward to reply. "Commander, we don't want to be enemies. We're just trying to make our way in the galaxy like everyone else." Zelek's expression was unreadable. Perhaps that is true. "But you have defeated the Zephyrian Empire in open battle. Word of this victory will spread throughout the galaxy. Some species will fear you. Others will seek to test your strength. Your peaceful mining days may be over." The transmission ended, leaving both human captains to consider the aliens' words. They had won their first battle, but it might not be their last. 3 months later, Admiral Catherine Bell stood in the shipyard orbiting Earth, watching the construction of humanity's new fleet. Dozens of ships were taking shape, each one designed with the lessons learned from the battle in the asteroid field. The ships were larger than the Defiant, with heavier armor and more powerful kinetic weapons. They carried names like Thunder, Avalanche, and Hammer, reflecting their purpose as instruments of kinetic warfare. "How many ships will be ready for deployment?" asked Dr. Kim as he joined the Admiral at the observation window. 24 within 6 months, Bell replied. 48 within a year. Each one capable of defeating any energy shield-equipped vessel we're likely to encounter. "And if we meet aliens who use kinetic weapons?" Admiral Bell smiled grimly. "Then we'll find out who builds better guns." In the depths of space, humanity's expansion was beginning. Mining ships escorted by military vessels pushed deeper into the galaxy, claiming territory and resources for Earth. Other alien species watched nervously, unsure whether these newcomers were friends or enemies. The galaxy had centuries believing that advanced technology meant energy weapons and force fields. Now humanity was proving that sometimes the old ways were the most effective. Bullets and bombs, metal and explosives. Simple physics applied with human determination. The age of energy dominance was ending, and the age of kinetic warfare had begun. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy with violence and victory, and the other species were still trying to understand what that meant for their future. Captain Jake Martinez, now promoted to Admiral, commanded the new frontier fleet. From his flagship, as he looked out at the stars, he remembered the words of the alien commander. Their peaceful mining days were over, but humanity had never been a peaceful species. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to show the galaxy what they were capable of. That moment had come, and there was no going back.